Well, let's take a look now at world financial markets, and for that we go to Lisa Barron, who's standing by in Hong Kong. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Rosemary. Later today, Japanese Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi's cabinet is expected to approve budget guidelines for the next fiscal year, which are thought to contain the country's first spending cuts in 4 years. And Economics Minister Heizo Takanaka believes that the market will approve of the $25 billion in cuts. Attention is also turning to whether the government will produce a supplementary budget. And Mr. Takanaka, while predicting a much weaker GDP number for the April to June quarter, said that it will be only one of many factors used to determine whether an extra budget is required. Meanwhile, the government has released its plans for restructuring 77 state-backed debt-ridden companies. Initial reports indicate that the changes are far from the drastic overhauls that Mr. Koizumi had promised. One example, the Prime Minister had rounded up support for the abolition of the Japan National Oil Corporation, but the report only calls for a review of ways to improve its corporate functions. Taking a look at how the financial markets are faring, and a quick recap of the U.S. markets, where most major indices remain virtually unchanged. Mixed retail sales data reinforced concerns about the sluggish economy. The Dow posted only marginal gains, while the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 fell slightly. And that's a look at the global markets. I'm Lisa Barron in the CNN Asia Center in Hong Kong. More world news in a moment. Ahead in BizAsia, Japan's economy shrinks. We'll talk to a Moody's executive reviewing its rating. New Zealand's finance minister speaks out on Air New Zealand's pending deal with Singapore Airlines. And it's one of the few bright spots in Asia right now. We'll take a closer look at the go-go Indian economy.
Live from Hong Kong, this is BizAsia.
Hello, I'm Lisa Barron. Japan is teetering on the brink of its fourth recession in a decade. Its economy shrank 0.8% in the second quarter. That's roughly in line with analysts' expectations, but worse than government estimates. It was the first quarter-on-quarter decline in 9 months and the first year-on-year drop since 1999. CNN's Rebecca McKinnon has more from Tokyo. Well, what sort of weather can we look forward to this weekend? Mari Ramos is in the World Weather Center with the BizAsia Travel Advisory. Mari.
Thank you very much. Well, I really got to advise you on this.
Doesn't look pretty. Thank you, Mari. Thank you for watching BizAsia on this Friday. I'm Lisa Barron in Hong Kong. More news is ahead here on CNN. Have a great weekend.
Lisa Barron is in Kuala Lumpur and spoke to Gates earlier today. She began by asking him what strategy Gates is taking in Asia, the fastest growing market for Microsoft.
Our strategy for Asia really has to be broken down country by country. And Japan, of course, is the biggest business we have here.
Microsoft has formed a number of strategic alliances with dot-coms in Asia. Some have been successful, some have been less successful. Given the downturn in the tech sector and the demise of a number of dot-coms, how has that caused you and your team to reevaluate your strategy with regard to partnerships in Asia?
Well, Microsoft's main role with dot-coms is to give them the very best development tools, to give them a platform that lets them scale up as their business can grow very rapidly.
What is your criteria for value in a dot-com?
Well, I'm sure the market is going to continue to gyrate quite a bit, going up, going down.
Lisa Barron's interview with Bill Gates continues tomorrow when he discusses how he plans to reinvent his web business.
Lisa Barron reports from Tokyo.
Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi sprang to power in April. He vowed to implement painful but long overdue measures to revive the stagnant economy and root out vested interests in his ruling Liberal Democratic Party. 8 months later, Japan is officially in recession, and Koizumi is facing powerful opposition in parliament.
The problem is political. Probably less than a third of his own party supports those reforms, and the bureaucracy now is digging in its heels to stop the reform.
His predecessors adopted public spending to stimulate the economy. Koizumi's goal, structural reform. His 3 priorities, reducing Japan's massive debt burden, cleaning up the banks, and deregulating the economy. Critics within his party argue the Prime Minister's insistence on reining in government spending risks sending the economy into a downward spiral. It is already plagued by record unemployment and deflation.
経済を The most important thing for Japan right now is economic recovery. The Koizumi cabinet is not helping the patient to recover, but making the symptoms worse.
Matsuoka and 65 other LDP lawmakers have formed a group opposing Koizumi's program. They're drawing up their own proposals for reform to submit to the Prime Minister. Other parties charge he has failed to deliver on his plans, especially to solve the massive bad loan problem that's crippling the nation's banks. But many economists give the Koizumi administration high marks for its performance.
They're sending all the right signals, all the right legislative initiatives are actually coming through. For example, the big focus on privatizing.
The Prime Minister pushed through a plan to abolish or privatize 7 state-run corporations, even though spending on rural roads and bridges has long won votes for the LDP. At the same time, he agreed to a second supplementary budget while managing, albeit through creative accounting, to cap government bond issuance to 30 trillion yen, around $245 billion, as he pledged. Many battles still lie ahead, but some analysts believe the LDP old guard could yield to a certain extent, if only to keep the party leader's reformist reputation intact.
Prime Minister himself often says this way, well, some people in LDP are against this kind of reform. Well, however, after some kind of negotiation or talks, they'll be well persuaded.
If they're not persuaded, there could well be a showdown. The Prime Minister recently told Parliament that those who try to change Koizumi haven't realized that without him, the LDP is finished. Recent polls show that Mr. Koizumi enjoys the support of 3/4 of Japanese voters. The Prime Minister is relying on that backing, threatening to destroy the LDP if it rejects his reform plans rather than go down in defeat. Lisa Barron, CNN, Tokyo.